In the wake of Min Min's reveal for Super Smash Bros., there's been a lot of discourse regarding whether or not Min Min was the appropriate choice to be added to the roster. Min Min stands among 15 characters total, and while many different people had their own opinions about which one they'd like to see, in this video we're going to be talking about why Min Min was the right choice, as well as some other characters who would have been very viable options. In contrast, we're also going to be talking about characters who should not have been chosen and why. Let's go ahead and get started by talking about Min Min. Min Min from the very beginning has always been a very popular ARMS character, and naturally when the director of the game says that he wants Min Min to be in, there's really no other justification necessary. But just to explore this option a little bit more, let's talk about some of the other things going on. Aside from being part of the base roster of ARMS, Min Min is also very special because of something else. As ARMS approached its 2-year anniversary, a special tournament was held, called the Party Crash Bash. In this event, the ARMS characters were pitted against each other in a sort of traditional tournament, where the outcome of player battles determined who would be the ultimate winner. As it happens, the champion of this tournament was none other than Min Min. In second place, we have Ninjara, and with Sakurai's personal taste put aside, we can also have a justification for his being a Mii fighter, given that he got second place. In the most traditional sense, thanks to the promotional art showcasing Min Min as the one holding the belt in the end of it all, we can ultimately agree that she was the champion of ARMS, and as a result, the #1 contender to represent ARMS in Super Smash Bros. But beyond Min Min, there are a few other characters worth mentioning that would have also been, I think, very appropriate. Probably the most common answer you would hear is Springman. Springman has always been the face of ARMS as far as most people were concerned, being the character that most people recognized as the official mascot. In the world of Street Fighter, he would be Ryu. Now, in the context of who is the main character of ARMS, it's true that you can say all of them are the main character, but in the case of Springman, he's unique in that there's a robot called Springtron who is very much modeled after him. Now, Springman's legacy is one that has been passed down. He's actually the third Springman. In addition to this, according to the comics published by Dark Horse, Springman's entire purpose was really to be the representative of ARMS, to be the symbol. Even when we look at the final boss of the major lineup, Springman and Max Brass have a lot more in common than some people might notice. And so, with the final boss being like an advanced version of the player character, it's almost appropriate to assume that Springman is the OG main character. Now, alongside Springman, we also can say that Ribbon Girl has been there from the start. It's true, she may not be the same passionate person when it comes to ARMS fighting like Springman, but she is still very much passionate and popular within the sport and around the media. Also open for consideration is a character like Ninjara. Ninjara was one of the first characters revealed, and as I mentioned before, also had success in the Party Crash tournament. We could consider him part of the main 4, which you can also see represented in this gallery piece, with the different ARMS League members holding and showing off the different badges. Now, in consideration, I would say there are 2 more viable options that could have been the representative here. The first one is the commissioner of the ARMS League himself, Max Brass. Max Brass is supposed to be the last thing standing between the player and that championship belt. As the commissioner of the sport himself, there are very few options that you can consider as appropriate. Serving as his foil is Dr. Coil. Dr. Coil would be the main antagonist behind everything else and most of the good things going on in the ARMS universe as well. The reason she makes an appropriate pick is because when we take a look at the theming behind Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, it's always been about heroes and villains from the very launch of the game. From Ridley to King K. Rool, adding villains has been a very normal part of the experience. It's for this reason that Dr. Coil would have been a fair consideration. With those 6 now all covered, we're going to move into the final stretch where we talk about the characters who would not have been appropriate representatives. First up, all of the characters that fall under what's called the second generation. Members of the second generation do not have what is considered to be the true ARMS ability. First up is Mechanica. Mechanica does not have the ARMS ability at all. Instead, she created a robot suit that's able to use it. This makes her a rather inappropriate choice. Next up, Bark and Bite. Likewise, the 2 of them don't have a traditional ARMS ability, but instead are just 2 robots that combined together and snuck through the inspection phase. Their unusual nature has prompted ARMS League to reconsider how they do evaluations in the future. Next up, we have Helix, another second-generation ARMS fighter. He was created in a laboratory. While his very creation is definitely centered around ARMS itself, he's a better representative of research rather than the sport. Not so different from Helix is Springtron, a robot based on Springman. Barring the other reasons we've given, if you're going to go so far as to include Springtron, then you may as well include Springman instead. Now, my last option on this list is going to be highly controversial because so many people really wanted her to be the representative, but the last character that I don't believe would have been appropriate to represent ARMS in Super Smash Bros. Is Twintelle. Twintelle is very unique in the ARMS universe. Literally no one else is like her. That's because unlike all others who naturally exhibit the ARMS ability in their arms, Twintelle's comes through her hair. When your character is supposed to represent the franchise itself, much like Mechanica, Twintelle still steps into the ring with both of her arms very much intact, and when I say arms, I mean her normal human arms. In the context of a character to represent ARMS collectively, this is another exception to the rule. Generally speaking, you don't use an exception to represent the overall concept. Now, having said this, I know there are a number of people who are ready to jump into the comments and start vehemently arguing about why this is wrong. So before you do, I'd like to ask why you wanted Twintelle to be the representative. If the reason was because she's your favorite character, well, that's a personal bias issue. My favorite character is Lola Pop, and she's nowhere on this list. Despite how much I like her, she doesn't really represent ARMS as a whole, in my opinion. Likewise, there's no question that Twintelle is popular and a great character, but when it comes to representing ARMS as an IP, you're better off sticking with the initial 6 people I chose on this list. And if I really had to narrow it down, I would honestly say Min Min, Springman, or Max Brass. In any case, thanks for tuning in and listening to what I had to say about Min Min's selection for the ARMS representative in Super Smash Bros. My condolences particularly go out to all the Spring Chads who were desperately hoping for their boy to be in. All that aside, I do hope more people will give ARMS a chance. It's definitely a super fun fighting game, and I can say also that each of the characters really do feel unique and individual. I definitely stand by the idea that everyone is the main character on a general scale. Once again, I gotta give attention to the gallery, which just has so much soul in it. It really makes me excited about ARMS. Until next time, this is Stanpai. Thanks for watching.